This is the Mark Dolan Way. Top tips for mind, body and soul, some great life hacks, and my favourite products of the week. This show is available on all podcast platforms, or you can watch it. Just subscribe to the Mark Dolan Way on YouTube and join the Facebook group. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the show. I hope you are very well. What's happening? Lots to catch up on. Look, I hope you've had a good week. I hope the sound on this is okay. I'm having all sorts of microphone problems. It's a bit of a disaster really, because I had a microphone which was the very posh, expensive Shure one, which broke. And then my son and I tried to fix it and we made it worse. And then I've lost some of the bits because basically we took it all apart, and then I just kept it in a kind of brown paper bag. And then I think somehow a few important parts of the microphone fell out of the bag. It was chaotic. I do need systems, and systems is something that this show is all about today, having systems. So if you look at really critical aspects of human activity, such as the military or the airline industry, they've got to be really thorough, haven't they? They've got to be thorough in the airline business. They've got to be thorough in shipping. They've got to be thorough in the military. Why? Because if they're not thorough, accidents will happen and people will be injured or they will die. Oh my God. There's a lot at stake. It's not like accountancy where you're just going to have financial problems. If things aren't right at 38,000 feet, it's an issue. So that's why the military, shipping, the airline industry, they're really thorough. They're big on safety, but here's the big thing. They're big on systems. So have you noticed that when you get on a plane, they give you the safety thing? They talk you through the safety features every single time. The cabin crew are given instructions by the captain, and the captain says the same thing to the cabin crew every time. And it's like, check locks, check the doors, this, that, and the other. And they're in the cockpit, and the pilot has got the co-pilot, and one person has to say, have you checked the ignition? Have you checked this? Have you checked the altitude? Lots of checks and balances, lots of systems. Okay, so if someone's a pilot and they've been a pilot for 50 years, on their last day at the end of a 50-year career, they're going through the same routine as they did on day one. Now, you'd think after a few years they've got the hang of it. They don't need the routine anymore. They don't have to talk about doors locked, safety, all that stuff, crash position, seat belts. They don't need the jargon. They don't need to run the tests because they've been doing this for years. They know what you do, but they do it anyway. They just have the system where every single time it's like, check the doors, check this, check that. And it's the same in the military. The military have their procedures, and it's the same every time, whether it's assembling a gun or whether it's forming a maneuver. And it's metronomic and it's repetitive. It's tediously repetitive. The same thing again and again and again. And it's really important and it's really valuable. And there's a lesson for all of us, which is that we should all have systems. So, for example, when I disassembled the Shure microphone, which has been, by the way, a massive disappointment. Good quality microphone, but it comes with micro USB, which is the worst interface ever. Let's not bore you with that, but you really, and I never liked it from day one. I was never happy that I got the micro USB, and I should have waited for the USB-C, which is the modern shape, which doesn't break and it's just universal. And by the way, that's something. I had a thing at work. About 3 weeks ago, I was offered a guest and I just didn't feel that they were right. And I was talked into it. And even then, I just wasn't, I thought, I can't, in my head, this is not a good guest to have for the show. And then it came to ultimately getting very close to the show time. And the guest had been booked weeks ago and they still weren't right. And it was still a problem. And in the end, we had to stand the guest down. And we'll probably have the guest back at some point. But I should have followed my instincts at the time. I knew that they weren't quite right. It was the kind of guest I didn't know how I could sell it to the viewer and the listener that it would be compelling. I never quite sold it in my head on this person. And I should have followed instead I ignored my instinct. I went against my judgment. And then we were left with a big problem, which is that this person had to be stood down for the weekend show. And that is my fault for not following my instincts. But anyway, that's not to do with systems, is it? Systems are really important, and the military do it, and schools do it, don't they? Schools have their systems. You go into the classroom and it's the assembly and it's the register, and there's structure, there's routine. Teacher comes in, maybe you stand up, you say, "Good morning, sir," "Good morning, miss," whatever the drill. But it's that structure that we could do with. So yeah, that's why I now cannot fix my Shure microphone, because I did not have enough systems there. So what I should have done is found a really good special dedicated box for this and put everything in the box and maybe the screws in a little carrier bag. Instead, I just chucked it in a brown paper bag and half of it's missing now. Absolute shambles. We will fix the sound issue on this show eventually. I think it's all right. I'm using a cheap microphone that I bought a few months ago from Amazon, which is supposed to be the travel microphone. But I think you deserve better, folks. I think you deserve... I'm a bit undecided because I could get another super duper one, which would cost a lot. But then there's a sort of medium one, which is sort of quite super, but not super duper. Do I get that? Or will I regret getting the just okay one? Oh, I can't decide. But I don't think I can bring myself to spend an enormous amount of money on another Shure microphone after they let me down so badly. Systems. So I do have a few systems of my own. So for example, and this is very, very minor, but actually massively important. I ride a a moped, right? 125 motorbike. Lovely little thing. It's a few years old now. Really enjoy it. Love the freedom of two wheels. Absolute heaven. I had to go in. I met up with my lovely cousin this week. And actually, that's not the story. I did meet my cousin. That was lovely. No, I also met up with a former colleague who was in central London, and it's probably 30, 35 minutes from where I live, and it was absolutely hammering down with the rain. And Mrs. Dolan said, "Why didn't you get the underground? Why don't you get the tube?" And I just thought, oh, I've got to be on the motorbike. I'm so used to that freedom and the fresh air and the spirit of adventure. So I just put on my waterproofs and just got wet. I went in the rain. I had a very, very wet motorcycle trip, but I enjoyed every minute. It was good. That's the thing about the rain. If you're correctly dressed, it's not really a problem. The Norwegians say there's no such thing as bad weather, only bad equipment, bad kit. And they're absolutely right. Although I must tell you that I've got Gore-Tex mittens, okay, which are great, but they get really wet, obviously, on the outside. And then when I put them on again later in the day, they've not had a chance to dry out. They're basically wet inside. So how does that work? They're supposed to be Gore-Tex, but they're sort of wet inside. And I've got a new problem, which is that at home, we try not to put the heater on very much because energy bills are very high and we want to save the planet. So these days, because I don't have heaters on, there's no way of drying my mittens. So if they get wet, well, then the next day, they're still wet. And I've got to go to work with wet mittens. They've not dried out. And it's getting to the point where I nearly need, which is absolutely ridiculous, but I almost need a second pair of mittens so that one pair can get wet, and then I can next day wear the dry ones whilst the wet ones have a couple of days to dry out. That's rubbish, isn't it? Anyway, we need a solution for that. At work, there is a hot room. It's a room and it's hot in there. It's basically, I think they call it a drying room. And it's for people that cycle in and they're all wet. And they can hang up their wet stuff. It's good, isn't it? It's just a little room with a heater. It's perfect. No windows. Did you know that the best night's sleep I've ever had in my life was up in Edinburgh in about the year 2000? I went to the Edinburgh Festival. I was performing there just for a few nights because I was in a competition called So You Think You're Funny. And the answer was I wasn't. Well, I was. I got to the final, but I didn't win. But it was a great experience. But actually, I went up for the semi-final and I stayed in a friend's place, and it was a student flat. And I wasn't even in a room. It was a box. It was a box room. It was a room within a room. Basically a cupboard, a glorified cupboard. And it had a single mattress on the floor and then just one door and no windows. It was a very Joseph Fritzl sort of setup, if I'm honest. A perfect location for a hostage. If you were going to take someone hostage, that room would have been perfect because it's a room within a room. And best night's sleep I've ever had. Why? Because it was pitch black in there. Because, of course, no natural light, no windows, no blinds, just total darkness. I think I slept for about 12 hours. I woke up delirious. I didn't know where I was. Isn't that the best kind of sleep, by the way, when you wake up and you don't know where the hell you are? Where the hell am I? Huh? What time is it? Is it Saturday? Am I supposed to be at work? Best sleep ever. I love it. The worst sleep for me is the sleep where if I wake up, let's say I've had my 8 hours and I wake up in the middle of a dream, I'm going to be knackered all day. I don't know why. But I think it's to do with the old sleep cycle has gone upside down, topsy-turvy. You shouldn't be dreaming in the 8th hour of your sleep. Something's gone badly wrong. I've got a big thing, which is that I don't eat much at night in the evening, because then if I've got an almost empty stomach, I tend to sleep like really good quality sleep, tend to sleep better and have a better quality of sleep. Which, by the way, well, let me just make a note of that and I'll come back to it about better quality sleep. I've got my product of the week for you, actually. Product of the week is coming. Now, systems, just give you a couple of my systems. So I ride the motorbike even when it's raining and the weather's miserable. I've actually used it in the snow. And I've got these. It's a good product, actually. You can get them from Amazon for about £10. And they are spikes that go over your shoes. They're on this sort of elasticated rubber, these metal spikes, and they just wrap over the sole of your shoe. You stretch them over. They're just stretchy. And it's just these metal teeth which go onto the bottom of your shoes, and it will turn an ordinary pair of shoes into the most amazing mountaineering. I mean, they work on ice and everything. They're brilliant. And I've actually, which is not a good idea, I've used my motorbike in the snow. But what I've done is I've had those things on my shoes. And it means that if I'm struggling on the motorbike and it's really slippery, I can have my legs either side of the motorbike and my feet on the ground and kind of use the spiky shoes just to stabilize the bike. It's amazing. So I love it. It's the only way to travel. I really enjoy it. If ever you do decide to ride a motorbike or a moped, a little 125, whatever it is, please get proper lessons and get your full license first, because it's amazing the things that they'll teach you, which if you don't know, could result in your premature death. We don't want that. So systems on the motorbike. Yeah, I mean, I've got a really simple one, which is when I carry a passenger, which is called pillion, if I have a passenger on the back, very often it's one of my sons. They put their helmet on, that's fine. I always say, is your helmet locked in? And that means that the helmet's on, but it's also clicked shut with the clip underneath the chin. Because I'm afraid an awful lot of people travel around on motorbikes with the helmet on, but it's not clipped shut. And I'm afraid that, God forbid, when there's an impact, quite often the helmet just flies off with the force of the impact, which means that then their head hits the ground with no helmet on. So you need the clip to keep the helmet on. So if there's an impact, you then land on the floor and you've got this lovely fiberglass shell protecting your brain. So what I do is I say to my son or whoever's a passenger, every time they put the helmet, I go, is your helmet locked in? And they go, yes, it is. And do you know something? I say it every time, and every time they say, yes, it is. And so they've got the habit, right? They always lock it. Why do I ask? Well, it's like the pilot. There's too much at stake not to check every time. That pilot has been a pilot for 50 years, and on his or her very last day as a pilot, they're still doing the boring checks, the procedures, even though they could do it in their sleep and they know it's fine and everything's in order, but you do the triple checking anyway. It's a system and it's really good to have it. So in your life, have a think about the systems that you've got. Are they foolproof? Are you having problems in life? Are things going wrong, like you lose documents, or you know, I've got a friend that's always losing passports, losing a wallet, losing the keys. Now that person is a candidate for systems. What happens to me is that I don't have systems, things go wrong a lot, and then I get so fed up with it that I build a system. I kind of, metaphorically, I write a software update for myself so that that doesn't happen again. So for example, my keys, I don't lose my keys anymore for two reasons. One, because I have an AirTag, which is an excellent Apple device. It connects with your iPhone and it just goes on a key ring, and it's basically a little GPS device, and it's on the key ring, and it means that you can locate your keys if you're separated from them. It's brilliant. I've talked about it in a previous show. And I'm sure there are Android equivalents, of course there are. But I would recommend that for your keys, because it's just a disaster when your keys go missing, isn't it? Another little idea I've had, by the way, which I've never done, is I've thought of getting a spare set of house keys and hiding them somewhere about maybe half a mile from my home. I might do that one day, because you know when you get locked out and it's 3 in the morning and you don't want to wake someone up, or maybe there's no one home. How annoying is that? So I was thinking about hiding the keys somewhere, but they would have to be far away. It couldn't be in the front garden, because then a burglar would be like, oh, thank you for the keys. Or even a couple of houses away. It would need to be quite far. I do think I saw online, I think you can buy a special plastic stone. It looks like a stone, and you open it and inside is where you keep your keys or money and stuff like that. Because you get that you get pretend baked beans, don't you, which you can put money into so that the burglars think it's just baked beans. But I think you can get like something that looks like a rock, where it's plastic and it opens and you put your keys in there. But not on your property. You know, you want it down the road. You could even have it in the local park behind a tree where no one's going to notice it. I don't recommend this, by the way. I'm not a security expert, but it is something that I've considered for myself, because it's so bad to lose your keys. But I've got a system when I leave the house, right? A bit like the helmet, has it been locked in? Or the airplane, doors to manual. That's what they say, isn't it? What does that mean, doors to manual? I don't think they know what it means. It's just it's a mantra now. But. When I leave the house, I always say 3 words to myself. Wallet, keys, mobile. Right? Have I got my wallet? Have I got my keys? Have I got my mobile? And if I've got those 3 things, I'm going to survive the day. Wallet, keys, mobile. Any one of those things missing and you're in trouble. The wallet is less of an issue these days because you can have your credit card on your phone. So maybe now it's just keys and mobile, but I still go for wallet, keys, mobile. I like having my driver's license with me because it's a good form of identification. You just never know when you're going to get asked for your driver's license, do you? About a year ago, I got the car serviced. And they gave me a courtesy car for the day whilst my car was being serviced. It's just a Toyota service. The car is very old, you know. I couldn't believe I was being treated so well. But then you've got this thing. It's £10 for the day, and that just covers the insurance. That's a bargain, isn't it? And you get to drive around in a brand new Toyota. That's quite nice. But this year ago, I went and I didn't have my driving license. And they said, oh, we just need a driving license if we're going to give you the keys. I didn't have it. And then they showed discretion. They were very nice. What they did is I had a scanned image of my driver's license on my phone. And because I'd been a customer there for years and years and years, they knew me, they trusted me, they'd seen my driving license before, and they took a printout of the driver's license, and it was very nice of them. But to be honest with you, they were within their rights not to let me have the car, and it would have been the biggest pain in the arse ever, because I had to like go to work and do things, and it would have been a disaster. So I was very lucky. So after that, I thought, right, I'm always going to have my driver's license on me, because you just never know. I mean, what happens if you suddenly decide out of the blue that you need to rent a car, right? You just, I don't know, you're in the countryside in the middle of nowhere and you suddenly need to rent a car. It can be handy, isn't it, having that driver's license on you? Also, if you have a situation with the police, it's much quicker if you can show them your driver's license. For example, if they pull you over and they have a question for you about your driving or whatever, even if they let you go, you need to be able to produce a driver's license, because if you don't, then they may ask you to go to the station within 10 days with your driver's, and you've got to go back and make a visit to, all of that's done if you've got that. But anyway, that's why I leave the house: wallet, mobile, keys. When I leave the house, I check that the oven and the oven is off and that the hob is off and that the doors are closed. It's just my systems. Big thing with the oven, hob, candles burning, all of that. I don't believe in candles. I think they're incredibly dangerous, so I don't even have candles anyway. But yeah, those are the checks I do when I leave the house. Check the oven, check the hob. When I'm in a taxi, right, systems. You get out of the cab, I always look down on the seat and on the floor in case I've left something there. A number of times I get out of the cab, I look down, and it's just my phone sat there on the seat, or the wallet tucked in. So that comes from painful experience of having done exactly that. But it's just a great system. Works for planes, works on a train as well, buses. When you get up, just look down on the seat. Actually, when I get off a train or a plane, I look under the seat as well. Because have you noticed when you're on a plane and or a train, you tend to really settle in, don't you? You take your shoes off and you take things out of your bag. You leave things on the floor. Stuff slides underneath. So check on the seat before you get off, and also under the seat. If you leave anything on the plane and you're in the terminal, there's no way you're not getting back on that plane, baby. You are not getting back on that plane, baby. It ain't gonna happen. What can I tell you? A few bits and pieces to tell you. Oh yeah, so that's the systems. I think that's done now. I think we've covered that. I was talking about, do you know something? I saw an email from a lovely listener who said they would like more diet advice, more low carb stuff. So maybe I'll do another low carb special next week. I was just worried. I didn't want to become boring. You know, when people have got like one subject and they hammer it to death. So I was a bit worried that I was, could be guilty of that, because this show does, I don't recommend anything because I'm not a doctor. It extols the virtues of the low carbohydrate diet. I love it. Not necessarily keto, which is really focused on eating a lot of fat. It's just, for me, it's just bring those carbs down. But let's do that next week. But let me give you the product of the week today. And it's MCT oil. And MCT oil is basically a kind of form of coconut oil. And what it does is that it stimulates the production of ketones. It helps you to go into ketosis, which is the fat burning, right? Because when we eat a lot of carbohydrates and stuff, then our body is just burning sugar for energy. And that's why we're hungry all the time. You have a sandwich, an hour later you're starving, you eat some sweets, then you're hungry again. And it's a kind of carbohydrate roller coaster. And low carb, you don't have that. You don't have the insulin being spiked all the time. But what's really good is MCT oil is like a catalyst for getting you into ketosis. And by the way, I just said that I'm not the biggest proponent of keto. That doesn't matter because, it's very successful for many people. But when you eat less carbs, such as, below 100, and I often go for below 50, you will be in ketosis, because that's a very low carbohydrate diet that you're on. And what's good about MCT oil, it's an oil, it's natural, it's derived from the coconut. It's coconut oil, basically, but a form of. And you put it in your coffee or your tea in the morning. You can have it by itself. You can blend it into a smoothie. But not a sugary smoothie, please. No bananas, no tropical fruits, okay? Because that's just sugar, sugar, sugar. I saw a famous radio DJ the other day recommending his morning smoothie, which had involved oats, honey, peanut butter, apples, and a banana, right? Sounds delicious, doesn't it? That is a wild amount of sugar that's going into your blood. That is wild. That's like it's like a Coca-Cola. Honey, oats, peanut butter, a banana. I've heard bananas described as a Mars bar in a yellow skin. Now, by the way, I'm not a doctor, so if you're changing your diet, please take medical advice. But that's my experience. The things that we're told are super healthy fine. Fruit has got some great nutrients in it, but it's also packed with fructose. So anyway, MCT oil, I have it with my coffee actually. I make the coffee and then I add a little bit of almond milk, a little bit of regular milk, and I have 2 tablespoons of MCT oil. I've only just started it, and no word of a lie, 3 days I think I've been having MCT oil with my coffee in the morning, and I've lost 1.5 kilos in weight. Now that could be a coincidence, but the principle of MCT oil is I think you can't really store it as fat. Even though it is fat, it doesn't get stored as fat. I think it's processed in the liver, which then produces ketones. So there's lots of stuff about MCT oil. It's natural. It's linked to mental sharpness. And it's linked to stopping you being hungry, like satiety. And it's lovely. It is very high in saturated fat, and therefore if you've got concerns about that, don't take it. There's a debate to be had about, are saturated fats as bad as people have said they are? And there's a strong body of opinion now to say no, but many scientists still think saturated fats are bad. So do your own research, speak to your doctor, speak to a nutritionist, but it's not I'm not concerned about it. For me, the big concern is sugar and seed oils, those manufactured industrial seed oils, which I think are officially and unambiguously bad for you. But it's all about opinions, isn't it? But yeah, the MCT oil, really enjoyed it. Maybe you could get yourself a bottle. It isn't necessarily that expensive. I think I got a bottle 250 ml for about £7. Okay, it's not nothing, but it's a good product. The one I got was organic. But yeah, give it a whirl and see how you get on in the mornings. It's great for intermittent fasting. So that means that if you want to eat in quite a small window, let's say you only eat between 1 p.m. and 7, what you can do is put some MCT oil in your tea or coffee in the morning, or have it straight. It doesn't matter how you have it. And then you can also have a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons at night when you go to bed, just to get rid of any little hunger. So the fat in the morning from the MCT will keep you going till lunchtime, and then the same in the evening, that you have it when you go to bed. You'll sleep well, you won't be hungry because you've got this lovely fat in your tummy, but you'll still be producing ketones and burning fat. It's a win-win. I'm quite excited about my MCT journey. I shall keep you updated on how I get on, but I've enjoyed it. I went to get my glasses fixed. I've got a pair of grey glasses that I wear all the time, and I really like them, and the shop that sells them doesn't make them anymore. How annoying is that? So they're fixing them, and that's lovely. But in order to fix them, they took another pair of glasses, which I enjoyed. So now they've got my broken glasses and my other favourite glasses. So I was forced to go into the back catalogue and wear some glasses that I never wear. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm wearing basically these black glasses, sort of matte finish. And it's funny because whenever I put them on, I don't like them. But because the other two are not with me now, they're locked away at this optician's, I've been forced to wear them. And having been forced to wear them for about 2 days, I now like them a lot, and I will be wearing them all the time. So isn't it funny? I was a bit annoyed at having to give up my favourite glasses to get them fixed. But in the absence of my favourite glasses, I've been forced to wear these ones, and these are now my favourite. I'm really enjoying them. I don't know what you think if you're watching on YouTube, but I think they're all right, aren't they? They're all the same shape, by the way. I go for this one shape. I've got them in all different colours. But the black I never bonded with, but I'm wearing them now, and all is good with the world. I think they make me look a bit pale sometimes because it's the black frame and then the white skin, a bit of a contrast. You know, the other ones are brown and then the grey ones. But it's an example, what I want to say to you. It's an example of when something's annoying and there's a disadvantage, it contains within it an opportunity. It contains within it a possibility. If I hadn't been forced to give up these 2 frames, I wouldn't be wearing the black ones. And now the black ones are back in my life, and they're going to be in my life all the time now. Even when the others come back, the black ones are you know, they're in the starting lineup. And that's a great development. That's a great positive. So when things are annoying, actually, there's an opportunity there. It'll be, you know, it could be quite good. I've been reaching out to a lot of people from my past lately, and that's really nice. Some people will engage, others won't. But it's amazing how many do. And I used to do a lot of stand-up comedy, and I've been reaching out to people that I used to do gigs for. And some have engaged with me reaching out, others have not. But I've been amazed how many have, and surprised by some of the people that have, because it's been a turbulent few years. I've been very outspoken about the pandemic response, some of the measures during the pandemic, which I think were very needlessly damaging. And for that, I've definitely, a few people have parted company with me, which I find amazing, but that's just how it is. I've accepted that. It's not a problem. I felt that many of the things that were done were not right, and I said so, and I'm comfortable with that. Nay, I'm glad that I did that, because I can tell my grandkids that I called out what I see to be the madness. But look, it's all about opinions, isn't it? But yeah, so I've definitely a few sort of acquaintances, friendships have withered away slightly, which is a shame. But then others renewed, and I've reached out to people, and they're just so enthusiastic and so lovely, and it's great to be back in contact with people that I'd lost contact with. I mean, I don't think I'm on my own. I think a lot of people lost contact with folk during the pandemic because we were locked away, weren't we? We were very isolated. We got out of the habit of socializing and interacting. You must have your pandemic casualties, and I don't mean that literally, of course, but I just mean the people that you lost touch with. But look, why don't you try getting back in touch with those people and see what happens? As I say, I've been really pleasantly surprised by reaching out to some people who I thought had maybe gone off me a bit, or just the relationship had, ceased to be. And they're like, hey, Mark, great to hear from you, and yada, yada, let's meet. So that's really nice. Also, better late than never. I had a bereavement at the beginning of the year, and some colleagues and friends sent me a really nice little gift. It was actually a tree. It was a sapling. Is a sapling a baby tree? I wouldn't know. I don't understand nature at all. I've barely been outside. I'm a very indoors creature. I'm definitely, if I was a cat, I'd be, the indoor house cat. But this lovely tree turned up. Little baby tree in a box with a card from some lovely colleagues and friends. And that was in January. And it's now March, and I finally thanked them today. It took me that long. What an idiot. How hard can it be? So I regret that it took me so long. It has been a busy and tumultuous year, but that's not really a good excuse, is it? But you know what? Better late than never. I did, and then they were very nice about it, very pleased to hear from me. So if you haven't been in touch with someone for a while, reach out. Even if it's your fault that you've lost touch, just say, hey, how are you doing? Send them a little thumbs up, a smile, whatever it is. And if they don't come back to you, fine. But if they do, it could reignite a lovely old friendship. There are people out there that maybe you think don't like you. Well, find out. Be brave. Risk being hurt. And just say, hey, Steve, it's been 3 years. How are you? Fancy a coffee? And see what Steve says. I think 9 times out of 10, Steve will be happy to hear from you. Either because Steve hadn't gone off you, he didn't dislike you, or maybe he did and he's over it now. But either way, there's a great potential value in that friendship, and it's time to reignite it. Same with former colleagues, people you used to work with. Remember Angela in sales? It's been 5 years now. Just drop her a note saying, hey, Angela, how are you doing? How's things? Hope you're having a great time. She'll be delighted to hear from you. Reach out to people you've lost touch with. It's a lovely, lovely thing. So I'm in the shop getting my... Oh, so that's... By the way, when I talked about reaching out stuff, it comes from... I'm not a very biblical person, but you have the Bible and you've got the parable of the prodigal son. And I think this is basically, in short, there's a son and he's really awful to his parents and he's obnoxious and he storms out, he leaves the house, and he just does a runner, basically, leaving the family bereft and devastated. And a few years go by, and then he comes back, right, and he thinks, oh, they're gonna hate me, they're gonna kill me. He comes back, and he is welcomed with open arms, and they're like, oh, Bobby, it's so good to have you back. And it's like they've never been apart. And it's the parable of the prodigal son, where he thinks he'll be hated if he comes back, but actually he's loved and the door was always open for him. You could be that prodigal son or that prodigal daughter, whether it's to a friend, a family member, or a former colleague. But whoever you feel banished by, just knock on their door and see whether you can't restart things. Time is a great healer, and I think they'll be happy to hear from you. And if they're not, then that's their loss, isn't it? That's their loss. So I'm in the shop handing over much loved spectacle frames. There's a cue. Always make a positive out of a negative. So I've said I lost my frames. I'm forced to wear the old ones, which I now like. Oh, there's another example of that, by the way. If you're a little bit of a shy, conservative dresser, can I recommend that you wear some wild clothes a few days in a row, and then they won't feel wild anymore. So what I mean by that is, years ago, I was in a Zara, which is a great Spanish clothing shop, and on sale for, I think, 11p. I mean, they were just giving this thing away. It was a white blazer, a crisp white blazer, but it was obviously no self-respecting man wanted to buy it, which is why it was on the bargain shelf, the bargain bin. You know that thing where it's been reduced several times on the ticket, and it's getting to the point where it's so cheap, they've written a new price just with a pen. So they haven't even bothered now to print out an official price tag, generate a thing from a computer. No, it's just Claire in the shop. She's taken out a Sharpie and she's written £13 just on top in red, furiously written in red. So there's this white blazer. What a ridiculous thing to buy. And I put it on. I thought, I cannot be seen dead in this. But I had a sort of series of gigs to do. There were maybe like 3 shows back to back or something outside London. I travelled. And I had a couple of jackets. I had a sort of, might have been a blue one, and then I had the white one. And I just thought, I'll try the white one. I don't want, it's a waste if I don't ever wear it. So I wore it, and I felt very self-conscious. And then the next night I wore it, and I felt less self-conscious. And by the third night, it just felt really normal to be wearing a white blazer. Anyway, that was probably 15, 16 years ago. I've been wearing white blazers constantly ever since. And I put the white blazer on. I don't feel strange. I don't feel outrageous. Doesn't feel over the top. It just feels really comfortable and normal. I wear a white blazer all the time. I wear it on my TV show. I wear it on stage. I would happily wear it socially. It's great. So if there's some wild clothing that you just think that you like, but it's just a bit, whoa, just wear it all the time and it will become completely normal. I had the same with white shoes. I had a pair of really shiny, smart white shoes. And I thought, when am I going to wear them? And then I wound up wearing them all the time with jeans and like a blue blazer and then shiny white shoes. Just got used to it. After about a week, you look down, it doesn't feel strange. And you know what's interesting? If you wear clothes that feel a bit weird and make you feel self-conscious, then people will pick up on it and they'll think that the clothes you're wearing don't suit you and that they'll think you look a bit weird. But if you're really comfortable in your outrageous clothes, like it's a second skin, then people will just go with it and they'll actually like it. They go, hey, nice white shoes. But if you're wearing the shoes in a really apprehensive way that they look like they're wearing you, people will say, oh my God, what the hell is that? But if you're really comfortable in your clothes, it's like, this is me. It's part of my identity. No one's going to notice. It'll be like, hey, Steve looks good in his white blazer and his shiny white shoes. Love it. So if you see something in a shop, or let's say you own something that's a bit over the top, a bit crazy, you like it, but you wouldn't be seen dead in it in public, I want you to wear it every day for a week. And I promise you, after a week, you will not feel self-conscious and you're just going to have this thing on you all the time. And others will be jealous that you've got the courage to wear it. So good. Have I told you the Bill Clinton story, the Hawaiian shirt? I think I have, but it's worth telling you again. It just shows what a clever psychologist Bill Clinton was and is. He was in South Africa meeting the great Nelson Mandela. And he was gifted a lovely African shirt, which is a lot of colours, very vibrant, very bright, short sleeve shirt. Anyway, his assistant, his intern, whatever you would call the person helping the president, laid out 3 shirts on the bed. And 2 of the shirts were just about acceptable, and one was pure horror. I mean, just like the loudest, most garish, vomit-inducing, dizzy. It'll make you dizzy. You know what I mean? Just the most, like a crazy Hawaiian shirt, a cacophony of colour and stripes and dots and absolute chaos. So you got 2 shirts which were okay, still pretty vibrant, but all right, and then the ridiculous one. And the president was given the 3 to choose from. And he puts on the outrageous one, the one which will make you dizzy and seasick. And the assistant said, "Why did you choose the worst one? Why did you choose the worst one?" And Bill Clinton said, "I want people to know that I was given this shirt. I didn't choose to wear it." Now, isn't that clever? I mean, it's a bit manipulative in a way. It's quite duplicitous. It's typical politicians' way of thinking, isn't it? But I thought it was interesting that you see him wearing this, smiling, and you're like, he's been asked to wear that shirt. He's been given that shirt. Quite clever. Quite clever. So I'm in the shop and I've got to get my glasses fixed. I'm giving away my favorite glasses, and helped by this really nice lady, brilliant team. In fact, I love being there. It's a great shop with great people selling glasses that I love, even though they don't make my shape anymore, which is devastating. And they keep trying to offer me ones which are a bit like it. It's like, no, it's got to be this shape. I cannot have a tweak to the design. That's like when a company changes its logo slightly and makes the T a bit more curly. Please don't do it. Don't meddle with a winning formula. So I'm getting my glasses, and very interesting. This lady, she was helping me. Delightful, very professional, very beautiful, lovely, perfect, right? But she had she had stars on her face, and to this day I don't know why. I say to this day, it was only a few days ago. Wasn't 50 years ago. I'm not on my deathbed, I hope. But do you have any idea? Sometimes I feel this podcast needs you to answer, by the way. But would you have any idea why she was wearing stars on her face? Is that covering spots? Is that a thing? Shall I just check on the internet? Is that stars to cover spots? Would that be a thing? They would basically, like, you know those stars that would go into your book at primary school when you did well in your English homework? Stars to cover. Oh! You know when Google finishes the sentence? Let's have a look. Star patches acne. Yep. I think they're for spots. I don't think she's wearing them just as a fashion accessory. She's got spots. But it's not a problem at all. But I quite liked it. I thought it was a nice spin. It's like, I've got spots, I'm going to put some stars on my face. And I sit not in judgment of this fabulous, very fine lady at all, because I used to have spots myself. It was so bad. So bad. It was, you won't believe this. Well, it was day one of having a girlfriend, right? I had great skin. I think I was a decent looking youngster. And day one of going out with a girlfriend, suddenly immediate acne. Just overnight acne. Just in time for my first girlfriend. Confidence went through the floor. Because I think acne for teenagers is a bit like hair loss for middle-aged men. You know, men feel very defined by their hair. When it goes, they often have a crisis of confidence. They shouldn't, because they often look brilliant without it, but it's that transition before they decide to shave it all off, you know. And you got members of the royal family struggling with that, haven't you? You got Prince Harry, who's struggling to say goodbye to the hair, but we know it's going. It's putting off the inevitable, isn't he? I think get it or shave it all, or get Meghan to get the old clippers out. I think so. She does everything else. She could do his hair too. Careful. Don't get in trouble. Don't get in trouble with the Sussexes. You can't say anything unkind about the Sussexes. Did you not know that? Princes and millionaire actresses are the latest protected class. Don't say anything unkind about the millionaire actress and the prince. William's worse, actually. I think that Harry... Is it just me? I think Harry's a good-looking guy. I've always thought he was good-looking. Female friends think he was good-looking, but not anymore. But I think he's still got it. I think he's a decent-looking lad, actually. Don't you? I think that Meghan's done quite well. Well, she's done very well, let's be honest. She married a prince. She's played a blinder, hasn't she, really, if we're honest? I mean, she's flown to London. 2-bit actress from a show no one in this country had seen called Suits, which they still haven't seen. And then she goes and bags herself a prince, right? The son of the King of England. By the way, I live in the United Kingdom. You're supposed to say the King of the United Kingdom. The Americans say the King of England, the Queen of England. I think it just sounds better. But when I say England, I mean the United Kingdom. But just King of England, I just think it's as a brand, it's sort of, I just think it trips off the tongue quite nicely. But she did very well. She came to the UK as an, if we're honest, sort of, you know, I'm not being unkind. I'm a Z-list celebrity myself. But she, you know, she wasn't bloody Nicole Kidman. Do you know what I mean? But she's come in, fallen in love with Harry. And they're now a brand. She's taken him out of the UK. They're in Hollywood, California. They've had a Netflix deal. They've got the books, the podcasts. You know, big mansion in Cupertino, California. Nobody's fool. And I think Harry's still got it, actually. I think so. I mean, I'm not a good judge of what an attractive man would be, but I think that I would suggest he is. More so than William, who I think William's got a good face, but he's doing that thing that people did in the 70s, which is like still having quite a lot of hair whilst being bald, which is a big no-no. I mean, it's got to go. It should all go. That's a job for the filler shave. Get Kate on that one when she's better. When she gets her strength back, get Kate to give him a bit of zzz. I think so. I think so. So this lady was very nice, and she had stars on her face, and I liked it. I thought it was upbeat. And what she's done there, she's taken a negative, which is some spots, and made a positive, which is to put stars on there. And I think it was a brilliant thing, and I think she's outstanding, and well done her. And I do not sit in judgment of anyone with spots. As I say, I had it for years, and it's not fun. Although now I quite like it now, because I think it makes you look young. So people with spots in their 30s, it gives them a kind of adolescent vibe. I think it takes years off you. I think so. It's a bit like the fact that the colour black is slimming. I think spots make you very young. But there you go. Now listen, shall we power through a few things? It's looking like quite a bit of a juicy episode, this, isn't it? 47. Do I go on, or do we go for succinct? I don't know. Let's have a look at the time. Well, no, you've got the time. I know it's 47 minutes in. But what time is it? Actually, 11 p.m. Apologies that the podcast has been recorded quite late. I do think it would have been a more springy performance if you'd had this in the morning. We do our best work in the morning, don't we? If I'm honest. But I just thought, let's crank it out tonight and see what happens. Easter is coming. We have not had an alcohol-fueled episode of the show for many months. Hilariously, was it last summer? And I was on holiday in Italy. And I think the old pod ran to 3 hours, did it? 2.5, 3 hours? Because it was the afternoon. I cracked open a beer and more or less had a party with you and myself. I think we'll do an Easter. I think the Easter Bunny is going to deliver a few eggs and a couple of cold beers. That's something to look forward to, isn't it? I've been alcohol-free now for so long. Maybe 4 weeks. Don't miss it, really. Do you know what it is? Don't miss it. Obviously feel better, because that's the nature of alcohol. Don't miss it, but looking forward to having a beer at some point. I think a couple of beers over Easter, and then back to the discipline again. You know how you do this thing, which is intermittent fasting, where you eat and you don't eat? Well, I think that works really well for alcohol too. Intermittent drinking, where you drink a bit and then boom, you're off it for ages. And then you go back on again. And when I say go back on, I don't mean you go wild, but you know, just I think days off are really good. And I actually happen to think, and I'm not lecturing you, this just works for me. For me, a few weeks off is really nice. I think it's getting to the point now where I probably have beers once a month. Imagine that. And you know what? It's quite nice because that's not often enough probably to do much damage, but it is often enough to be something to look forward to. I was thinking about it this morning though, which is, and I'm going to say this to my sons, and I'm saying it to you because you're just as important as my sons, because I want you to have rich, fabulous lives. Let me tell you that alcohol's great. It's a great social lubricant. It can be great for romance, breaking down barriers. I love it. It will always be in my life. But alcohol is not compatible with human health, happiness, fitness, or success. There you go. It's not compatible with any of those things, which is why as long as you keep it in a box, a very well-defined naughty box, you'll be fine. By the way, there's plenty of people listening to this who can have a few beers every week or even a beer a day and not have a problem. So each to their own. And by the way, being serious about this, if you've got a problem with alcohol, I recommend you never have it. And that's many people. And if you need help, please reach out. You've got your GP, your general practitioner, your physician. By the way, that's what I mentioned earlier with low carb. When I say go and see your GP, I mean that's about your physician, your doctor. And the other, there's a very good thing called 1 year no beer, and that is run by a chap called Rory Fairclough, is it? Oh, can we be bothered to look it up? I think it's only right we do, because we're recommending his product. 1 year no beer. Rory. Let's have a look. He's a lovely, lovely man, a very inspirational man. Yeah, Rory Fairbairns. Rory is spelt Ruari, Fairbairns. 1 year no beer.com. And it's great. It's the idea. I think what you can do is you can choose the length of time that you don't have alcohol, and it can be a month, it can be 3 months, it can be a year. So that's it. That's a great resource. But I will be looking forward to my very occasional beers, and I think this Easter I'm looking forward to that. I don't know about you, but I like Easter because it's sort of like Christmas without the fanfare, isn't it? It's a sort of chilled out, low-key Christmas. There isn't the build-up, and there isn't the hangover, the metaphorical hangover afterwards. I won't be eating any Easter eggs because I don't eat the sugar. I'm so boring, aren't I? Right, next up. Listen, it is a bumper episode. I'm told it cannot go past 59 minutes because of YouTube. So should we take it to 59? I think so. We're on 52 at the moment. This episode has been a triumph of quantity over quality. Imagine how good this would have been if I'd done it in the morning. Just imagine how much more pep it would have had. How much more snap, crackle and pop. Instead, you've got Dolan at the fag end of a long day with the brain unraveling, telling you stories about ladies with stars on their face because of severe acne. I wonder how healthy it is for the spot, by the way. Don't you think the bacteria and all the pus like sits underneath the sticker and just builds up like a dam? I wonder if at the end of the night when you take those stars off, the pus just explodes out of the spot like a burst dam. Is it just me? Is there anything better than squeezing a really, really yellow spot? Is there anything? I've talked previously about the joy of watching those videos, the pimple doctor and the blackheads. That's one thing. But you know when you just got a really yellow spot, when it's ripe, when it's red, you can't squeeze it because nothing will come out and you'll make it worse. So you've got to let it ripen and mature, and you can see that reservoir of yellow pus just on the surface of the skin. And you squeeze it and it bursts out and the pressure is released. And then what you've got to do is then you've got to squeeze more out. You've got to squeeze a bit of the blood out, and then you know you got rid of all the pus. Oh, it feels so good. And then it's just bleeding slightly. I love it. I don't think there's anything much more pleasurable than squeezing spots. In fact, if I was a billionaire, I wouldn't really be that decadent. I wouldn't be driving Ferraris and things like that. I would buy an ancient Mercedes-Benz from the 80s, because I've got a theory that you always want the car that was a great car when you were a kid. So for me, that would be the Mercedes 500 SL, which is the convertible. It's the car that Bobby Ewing drove in Dallas. So I'd have one of those. I might get it upgraded to electric. How cool would that be? Go to one of those places, put batteries in there and charge it up. Oh, man. Anyway, that's not important right now. Oh, no, I can't have forgotten what I was saying. And it was about squeezing spots and bleeding. Oh, no. The problem is I'm under pressure now because we've only got 4 minutes left. I've got to remember why. Oh, yes. If I was a billionaire, I bet you're glad I remembered. If I was a billionaire, I wouldn't be extravagant. I wouldn't have properties all over the place. What a drag. Too many keys to lose. But I would probably employ people with acne to come round and I can just squeeze their faces. Adults, they would be it would be consent, full consent. They'd be grown adults, 18 plus. I would like, I'll see their passports, make sure that they're a grown consenting adult with acne, with all sorts of hormonal issues, which means they've got spots everywhere. And I can just make my way through. So maybe like 3 or 4 of these acne-ridden adults come in, and I just go over to them and I just start popping like that. It just pop, pop, pop. I could combine it with, like I've said, maybe I have my beers once every 3 or 4 weeks. I have a couple of drinks. It'd be like, it's the highlight of the month. A couple of beers from the fridge and then squeeze some faces, squeeze some spots. Wouldn't you like that? Wouldn't you like access to consenting adults whose spots you could squeeze? Oh my God, is it pop, 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 pop? And you could put a bit of Savlon on there, maybe a little bit of tissue to then stem the flow of blood. But oh God, that would be so good. You might be able to tap into a few middle-aged men who tend to get acne on their backs. Have you ever seen that? So that could be like a sort of speciality. You probably pay extra for the acne on the back. And that is men that they don't have real spots on their face, but if you get their shirt off, especially, middle-aged, quite hairy men, bit overweight, there's going to be some great back acne going on there and just pop away. Reservoirs, rivers of pus. Absolute heaven. Is that just me? Okay, 2 minutes to go. I think we've covered that. Talked about the glasses. I'll save the rest, I think, for the next show. Can I just bring back one? I make no apologies for occasionally repeating things because there are so many episodes now. This is episode 60, thanks to you. And let me tell you that last week our numbers jumped by 50%. So thank you so much. I really want to thank you for being so loyal. And I want you to talk, please, if you don't mind, tell your friends, tell your family, spread the word about the show. Give me an honest review. But there are so many now that I do think I can justify bringing some back, and in a way, always bringing them back. We're never far away from give it 3 seconds. If you're struggling with motivation, start your tax return just for 3 seconds and bang, you're in. That's a brilliant one. Do bad work, right? If you can't motivate yourself, just do it badly, and that gets rid of the perfectionist trap. Because if you think, oh, well, I'll do this company report badly, I can easily do it badly. I'll do that now. I'll do it really well tomorrow. No, do it badly now. And you'll find that it's not that bad. And anyway, bring back this one because I've definitely had a sort of challenging couple of weeks. Been a bit of personal pain. Life is very difficult. You have problems. So there has been pain. I will tell you that. Because I'm Mr. Jolly and all of that. But I'm a human being like everyone else, and I have pain and I have problems like we all do, because that's what being alive is. Because life is difficult, that is the starting point. And I like that line from one of the lady, the housekeeper in Downton Abbey, which is a period drama. It's a Scottish lady, can't remember her name, can't be bothered to look it up, and there isn't time. And one of the characters is going through, everything's going wrong the whole time. And she said, "You are being tested." My love, you're being tested. You just have to get through it. So if you're going through a hard time at the moment, or if you're going to go through a hard time, will you remember these words, that you're being tested? And when you think, when it was all these problems that coming in, your financial and relationship and health, I've got a friend that keeps getting ill. When's this going to end? Don't suddenly decide this is your life, but just understand that you're being tested and that you're going to be okay. Think of that psychology. You're being tested and all will be well. Have a great week. I'll see you in 7 days. Thanks for listening and or watching. Bye-bye.